Welcome to 805 Sports Talk. I'm Joe Bailey. Alongside me is Kenny Kress and Elliott Stern. And our first story for this week's show revolves around the San Ynez football team and their star player, Mike McCoy, who may just be the most productive and versatile player on the Central Coast. The Pirates are 4-0, and they play at Santa Maria Friday night. McCoy, meanwhile, has 16 total touchdowns. He's thrown for 11, rushed for 5 more, but he's also the starting kicker on the team. He's 23 for 23 on PATs. He's 2 for 2 on field goals. Last week, he threw for more than 360 yards and 4 touchdowns, ran for a touchdown, kicked a 44-yard field goal, had a couple touchbacks, and also had an interception on defense. So I caught up with Mike, and he told me, what kind of makes him tick, how he likes producing for his team in any way he can, and they also hit on the matchup Friday night at Santa Maria.
I think last week's game was just kind of encapsulates what you do for this team. Had a field goal, interception, threw 4 touchdowns, ran for a touchdown. How do you feel? I know you don't want to focus on individual performances, but just to have a game like that, how does it feel to help your team in every way that you can?
Of course, it's great to help out my team any way I can, but like you were saying, I can't really do this at all on my own. I can't do it without the guys around me. The guys have to be catching the balls, or the line has to be blocking their butts off. So, it really wasn't my work. It was just their work, and it's shown through me.
And this isn't anything new. You've been doing this for the last 3 years here. Every year at San Ynez, you've been kicking, punting, playing defense, and playing some quarterback, playing some receiver. Are you used to this now, or do you still kind of try to learn new things with playing so many positions? How used to this are you?
Well, I love playing every position I can to help the team, doing whatever they need. So every year I just kind of come out, asking coach what they need, and they just throw me in whatever they do need. So just kind of go from there.
Okay. Is there a favorite thing that you like to do on the field? Is it completing a pass, catching a pass, throwing a touchdown, making a tackle, a pick, anything that really stands out to you that's kind of like your favorite thing to do on the field?
Well, it doesn't really have to do with position, but whenever I throw a touchdown pass to Gabe or Jasper, Travis, whoever, I love running down with the team, with the line, and celebrating down there with them.
Okay. And the team is 4-0, so you guys had some success. Are you surprised at all that you guys are 4-0 at this point?
We knew at the beginning of the season that this was a very special team. Kind of building off of last year, we went 7-3, so we're just kind of going to go off of that. But we didn't expect how we're doing right now. We think we're just taking it one game at a time and going from there. Try to go 1-0 every week.
What do you think it's been with these guys? You did lose a lot of seniors from last year's team. Some people, kind of had, average expectations for you guys, but here you guys are 4-0. What has it been with this? Is it the mindset? Is it the talent, physicality, a combination of everything? What has it been with you guys to get out to this 4-0?
This is a very hardworking team. We're a young team, but we've been very experienced. All these guys have been playing with each other since youth football, very young. So I think they're just really hardworking, and they know each other really well and what everyone's going to do, and they're all on the same page. Okay.
You guys got Santa Maria Friday night. They're not the same old Santa Maria. They're pretty improved this year.
Yeah.
What do you guys got to do to beat Santa Maria? You're playing over there. How do you feel about that game Friday night against Santa Maria?
Well, we're not taking any team lightly this year. We got to just take it a week at a time. But we're kind of just going into it, trying to play our football, just doing what we do and not really changing anything.
So, Josh, you guys are 4-0. You talk about Mike doing everything that he's been doing this year, but he's been doing it for 3 years. Have you ever seen a player quite as versatile as him and as productive as he's been this year? Have you had a player quite like him?
When I coached at Napomo, we had a kid named Dwayne Hanna, linebacker, running back, could kind of do everything, and another kid named Kevin Britt. It reminds me a lot of that, but those two guys couldn't throw the ball, and Mike can. I really think he could play any position if we needed him to.
How has he been so productive passing the ball? I think he has 11 touchdowns this year, 5 picks, but he's been throwing the ball really well. Has he really progressed this year as a passer, or have you guys just been utilizing him more in that aspect? How has his passing game developed?
I think he knew he had to be the quarterback this year. I think in the 2 years past where he's fought for the position, he always, Mike wants to never leave the field on defense. That's his passion, and he always loves playing receiver. So I think it was kind of, in his eyes, like, I can always fall back on that, and we've got a decent quarterback in Sheehan, so I'd rather just play receiver. Makes the team better. Mike's a team guy.
Yeah, and you also get to use him on defense. I know you work heavily with the defense. What does he bring to the defensive side of things? He gets some interceptions. He's a good tackler, I think, as well. What does he bring to the defensive side?
He's a lockdown corner. He's kind of a Revis Island type of guy. or Richard Sherman, because he just tackles so well. So he's one of those guys that we can combo coverage. We can run man to his side. We can run zone everywhere else. We do a lot of different things matchup-wise with him. And so he affords us the ability to really put a lot more guys in the box for run. And with him and Prendergast as our two corners.
Okay. Is there one thing that you think Mike does best on the football field? Out of everything he does, what do you think his best playmaking ability is at?
The improvisation. He improvises really well. I mean, I think it was two games ago, and we tried to run a screen pass, and Carpinteria covered it down. He must have reversed field 8 times and ran 60 yards for a touchdown. I've never seen a kid score off a blown screen. That's crazy.
And you guys got Santa Maria Friday night. You're playing over there. How do you feel about that matchup? Santa Maria's improved. You guys used to be in the LPL together, but now they're over there in the Northern League. How big is that game, and what do you guys got to do to beat Santa Maria?
Well, we try and treat every week like championship week, and that's what we say. I think I just said it to the guys, and I've heard a lot of people say Santa Maria's improved. I'll go as far as to say Santa Maria's flat out good. They're really good. It's like it's the Saints of the '80s. From what I remember as a young kid. Their offensive line is blocking well. Their quarterback, Truitt, he's a stud. He's a little pinball back there. You can't ever get a beat on him. The running back is a really shifty, quick runner. He runs with a lot of aggression and passion. I think they're flying around on defense. I think it's going to be the best team we have played so far this year. They're really well coached, and it's going to be a battle because we're going up there in the Lions Den up to their place, and I know they've been having good crowds, and the city's fired up for them, and rightfully so. So I think the kids really know what we have to do and focus. We've been watching film all weekend, and that team's good.
All right, thanks for your time, Josh. Good luck Friday.
So that was really great to catch up with Mike McCoy. And if you want to see one of the most versatile players on the Central Coast play Friday night, be sure to be at Santa Maria High School. And it's going to be interesting to follow McCoy throughout the rest of the season, see if he can surpass maybe 2,000 yards passing and 1,000 yards rushing. Right now he's just under 1,000 yards passing and has about 400 yards rushing. So he has a real shot at putting up some great numbers this year. And one of the interesting things as well, talking to McClurg, was how much respect he has for the Santa Maria team. He talks about he thinks it's going to be a great matchup. He called the Lions Den playing at Santa Maria. He knows they've had good crowds. So I think that's going to be one of our most competitive games. Friday night is going to be San Ynez at Santa Maria. But kind of shifting a little bit, Elliott, you were at a game that wasn't so competitive last Friday night at St. Joseph High School.
Yeah, thank you. It was, I thought it was going to be closer. St. Joe came out on the wrong end of a 35-0 score against Arroyo Grande. Of course, Arroyo Grande got the benefit of having Sam Ness back on defense. And they really shut down the St. Joe ground game. They held them to 40 yards rushing. But Dino Maldonado put up some pretty impressive numbers. Passing for St. Joe, he was 18 for 36 for 190 yards. Bad news is he threw 2 interceptions, and both came at critical times. They have a running back named James Gilmet for Arroyo Grande, and on his second carry of the game, he broke it for a 58-yard touchdown run. To put Arroyo Grande up 7-0 early in the first quarter. Gilmet actually ran for exactly 100 yards on 13 carries. But St. Joe came right back. They got down to the Arroyo Grande 25. They had a 4th and 2. They went for it, and they didn't make it. Now, actually, C.J. Cole fumbled the ball when he got hit, but he wouldn't have made it anyway because he was hit behind the line of scrimmage. So they turned it over. They had a good chance. They moved the ball well. Gilmet then ran for another touchdown a couple minutes later. But then St. Joe came right back, got down to a 1st and goal at the 10, and Maldonado was intercepted at the goal line. Later, they had a 4th and goal from the 1-yard line, and Maldonado had a complete pass. Right to the 1. It was like a side pass, not quite a lateral, and the receiver was hit immediately, fumbled the ball. Nathan Witzig picked it up on a run, returned it 58 yards to the St. Joe 42, and the St. Joe's night was pretty well over. I thought it was going to be a more competitive game, but they just kept pounding away. Sawyer May, their quarterback, threw 15 times, completed 9 for 125 yards and a touchdown. But between Gilmet, Joshua Evans, Tyler Rocha, Cameron Johnston, and May himself, they just kept pounding away only passed when they felt like they had to or to change things up a little bit, and they just wore St. Joe down. And we talked last week about it, and one of the things I was concerned about was whether Arroyo Grande size and late in the game would wear St. Joe down, and you could see that happening. But they really did most of the damage in the first half, and even though St. Joe showed through the air it could move the ball, I mean, Maldonado hit Nate Guzman with 3 passes that were, he hit him with more than that, but he hit him for 34 yards, 21 yards, and 42 yards. And that 42-yarder set up one of the first and goals, and he laid out like he was, diving into a swimming pool. When you see him at the Olympics, he laid out just like he was going into the pool, made a spectacular catch, and then they turned it over before they could get into the end zone. So mistakes, and of course the Arroyo Grande lost to Lompoc the first week. They haven't lost since, and I don't know who could stand in their way except maybe Paso Robles. I see him having at least 8 or 9 wins before the playoffs begin. They're just about as strong as Lompoc here in the Central Coast. I put them number 2 to Lompoc in our weekly polls, and they showed why. Because they didn't make mistakes. They didn't have any interceptions. They didn't have any fumbles. They held on to the ball, and they played smart heads-up football. So St. Joe came out on the wrong end of a 35-0 score. This week, they go to San Luis Obispo. Their record right now is 2-3. San Luis Obispo is 0-5, and St. Joe stands a good shot at getting their record even at 3-3 before they head into the league. And they're in the same league with Lompoc, and they'll eventually have to play them, and that could be a real tough night. But there may be nobody else in their league that could beat them. But it's been a competitive. Pioneer Valley's much improved this year. San Ynez has been great. So they've got a tough league season ahead of them, but they've been playing tough teams to get ready for the league. They've just come up on the wrong end 3 times now. So there's a lot of football still to go, but we're in the middle of a bunch of other seasons too, and we've been paying attention to them. We follow all of the sports. There's water polo and golf and volleyball and tennis, and Kenny was really into tennis last week. So Kenny, why don't you update us on what's going on in that world?
Yes, there was a lot of good, interesting tennis this past week and this week, particularly in the Los Padres League. San Ynez has been the perennial league powerhouse, but they have been beaten 2 of the last 3 league matches. Cabrillo defeated them 10-8, and then Orcutt Academy defeated them 12-6. Both those matches took place last week. Orcutt Academy is now in first place. They edged Cabrillo 10-8 on Tuesday. I do think they have a good chance to win their first league title. It's a long way from guaranteed with Cabrillo and San Ynez both in the mix. But what struck me with San Ynez is, Orcutt Academy's balance. Against San Ynez, every player in every spot in the lineup, that's singles and doubles, won at least 1 set. And Tuesday, they got at least 1 point from 8 of the 9 spots in the lineup. And tennis with that kind of depth, that's hard to beat. What I found particularly interesting was the singles depth in the league this year. I think any one of 5 players, and that's just who I can think of off the top of my head, or maybe more, could be there. I'm thinking of Mary Kavalowski of San Ynez. She won the singles title as a freshman. As a sophomore, she had, I believe it was a shoulder injury. She did well in doubles, but she couldn't really play much singles. Her junior year, she won the league title again as a junior. She was upset by Megan Visay of Orcutt Academy last week. I think Megan could be in the mix, as well as her teammate Amanda Young, who usually plays at the #1 singles spot for Orcutt Academy, and she swept she won 2 sets against San Ynez, losing only to Kavalowski. she swept 3 sets against Cabrillo. Julia Johnson of Napomo has been very consistent all year. She, I think, has established herself as one of the top players in the league. And also Sierra Hohemer, I believe is how you pronounce her name, of Cabrillo. She is a very steady player. She defeated Megan yesterday 6-3. Amanda defeated Sierra 6-4. So I think the league's tournament, particularly singles, it could be very interesting this year, very competitive. Well, I've gone through tennis. Now with dress rehearsals for a lot of the teams before league starts, let's take it back to football.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of football games Friday night looking at the schedule that really jump out at you as being, huge primetime games, but these are important games nonetheless, very important games. It'll be the 5th or 6th game for many of these teams, and the league season is right there. So a lot of these teams got to get everything squared away and get ready for those league campaigns. Everybody wants to win a league championship, and I think it's going to be real interesting. All 3 league races that we cover, Pac-5, LPL, and Northern League seem to be real interesting this year. Over in the Pac-5, it looks like it's going to come down to Paso and AG. I think that's going to be an amazing matchup this year later on. A couple weeks away from that, I think it's going to be at Paso this year. Looking at the LPL is even more interesting with 3 teams, right there in the mix. Lompok's 5-0, San Ynez is 4-0, and then we got St. Joe at 2-3, but they've probably played the toughest schedule in our area. In the Northern League, man, who knows what's going to happen over there. Napomo might be the favorite right now, but Santa Maria is right there. Morro Bay is 5-0 as well. So, we got 3 5-0 teams in our area, and it seems like all 3 league races are going to be real interesting. So I think the most interesting tune-up that we have Friday night is at Santa Maria with San Ynez playing there. I know we talked about it a little bit at the start of the show, but I think that's going to be a real interesting matchup. Santa Maria, I was at that game last week where they lost to PV, 13-10. So I don't know if Santa Maria has that ability to bounce back. That was a tough loss. They were right there till the end. And now they have to host San Ynez, a team that has outscored its opponents 167-14. So I don't know if Santa Maria is capable of gearing it up again and taking on a really strong team like San Ynez. So I think the Pirates are going to come out on top of that one. I think it's going to be tight, maybe for the first quarter, but I think the Pirates just have too much for Santa Maria, and they're going to pull away a little bit. I could see it being, 35-14, something like that, maybe even more for San Ynez. But Elliott, I'm just interested in hearing what you think about that matchup and if the Saints can bounce back.
I really like Santa Maria this year. They've got their best team maybe since you were a student at Santa Maria High School many years ago. But and Dan Ellington has got the kids in the right direction. But we've seen that they're a 21-ish point team. And sometimes against a good defense, they're not quite that good. San Ynez with McCoy can really light things up. And I just think that, again, San Ynez has got just too much offense, and Santa Maria is building, and, Dan Ellington and the kids would like to see the future be now, and maybe it will be when they get into their league season because, again, they'll be playing Napomo, Mission Prep, if Mission Prep even fields a team, Morro Bay and Templeton. So they have a shot in their league. But I think San Ynez is going to McCoy and those kids is too much for them tonight. But remember, last year San Ynez started off gangbusters with going 7-0, and they fizzled down the stretch. So they can be beaten. They just haven't been beaten. And Santa Maria's defense has really got a night cut out for it. And I'm just thinking that, again, like I was thinking last week, St. Joe could hang with Arroyo Grande, and it just didn't turn out that way. I'm afraid the same thing's going to happen to Santa Maria, but I don't think they'll be shut out. I think they'll get on the board, but I think Santa Ynez has just too many weapons with McCoy back there. He's been a great young quarterback. He's finally had a chance to step into the limelight this year without the Vreeland kids overshadowing him, or other kids on that team. So he's really stepped up big, and I think he's going to lead them to another win.
Yeah, and Kenny, you've seen both those teams, quite a bit this year, San Ynez and Santa Maria. Do you think the Saints can keep up with the Pirates Friday night?
I think they have a chance to for a while. I pretty much agree with both of you. It's going to be hard for Santa Maria to hang for the whole game. I think their defense will actually have the strongest challenge. McCoy and Gabe Prendergast, you pronounce it? They have almost 300 yards of total offense a game just between those two players alone. And Samaria has a small defense. I just think they're going to really be spread out between trying to contain San Ynez's between the tackles running game, trying to contain McCoy's running, trying to hang with a pretty good group of San Ynez's receivers. I just don't see how they can do it for a whole game. On offense, they do have a chance to score some points. Where they have had problems, I think, is, and we've touched on this before, is sustaining any sort of, with any consistency. They've had their moments, but sustain with any consistency between the tackles running game. And I think at some point you have to have that. Robert Ruiz, as we've said, he is a proven between the tackles runner. He's averaging almost 4.5 yards a carry. He can hit a hole quick. He often doesn't go right down when he's hit the first time. If you're trying to go wide all the time or pass a lot, that puts a lot of pressure on your offensive linemen. That's a long time to hold blocks. I think they need a good period of time where they can just blast off the line, make their blocks quickly, and hope Ruiz or whoever is carrying the ball can hit the hole quickly and gain 4 yards or so. I think that's going to be a challenge for them.
Yeah, and shifting over a little bit, it's still an LPL versus Northern League matchup, and that's going to be our webcast game of the week. Is from Lompoc. Lompoc Braves host Templeton. Braves are 5-0. They beat Rigetti 54-0 last week, and honestly, I think doing the webcast, I think the best thing about that, I don't think it's going to be a competitive game. Templeton hasn't shown us much. Cabrillo beat them. I think the best thing was just to see Lompoc, and what they do in action. I haven't seen them yet this year, so it'll be good for me to finally experience what they're doing this year and how they've been so dominant. I don't think Templeton stands a chance. Probably won't be a very close game, but I think it will be entertaining to see Toa Tawa, our reigning Northern Santa Barbara County Athlete of the Week, who had almost 240 yards on just 8 carries last week. So I'll finally get to see him in action. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about seeing Cameron Davis, the quarterback at Lompoc. Shamar Savage has had a good season receiving. The Lompoc defense seems to be improved. I don't think it's going to be a close game. I know it's not going to be a close game, but I think it will be. Definitely has some entertainment value there to finally see Lompoc, on the big stage and finally see them firsthand.
I'm wondering if Templeton can even score on them. Lompoc, hasn't given up a point in its last 3 games. They're, I think it's 143-0 is the score over those 3 games, and they've only given up about 30 points on the season in the first couple of games, many of them to Arroyo Grande, which has been the toughest team they've faced this year. So I'm wondering if they can pitch another shutout. And Templeton usually fields a good squad, but they've been a little bit down this year, and I just think Lompoc's going to pad its record. The Braves are going to cruise to a victory. Tawa will play about a half, maybe a little bit into the third quarter like he did last week. And so many of the other starters will sit somewhere at the halftime or in the third quarter. I just don't see that Templeton has the horses to compete.
Yeah, Templeton lost last week 45-7 at San Ynez, and the big thing with Templeton, they didn't have their quarterback, Nate Avery, who's their best player, so I don't know if he'll play Friday night, but if they don't have him, it's even worse for the Eagles. The other Lompoc team, Kenny, Cabrillo is going to be playing at Morro Bay. You saw Cabrillo lose at home to Napomo last week. Morro Bay's 5-0. Do you think Cabrillo can go over there to Morro Bay and steal a win? There's been a lot of turmoil with Cabrillo. We kind of talked about it a little bit. But what do you think about Cabrillo's chances playing at 5-0 Morro Bay?
Well, they've had a week now to adjust more and soak the stuff in after the turmoil happened. It was a terrible week for them last week. We all know what happened in the early morning hours Friday, and not only that, the fires disrupted at the base, disrupted their practices so much. J.J. Willis, who took over the head coaching duties last week, said they couldn't even go full bore in practice until Thursday. That said, I think it'll be close, but I would still give the edge to Morro Bay. They haven't played the strongest schedule, but they have proven that they can win the close ones. It will be at Morro Bay. Morro Bay is coming off a bye. Sometimes coming off a bye week does not hurt a team. Sometimes it does. So I think this is one of the more up in the air games we've had. Cabrillo, to be honest, their players did seem subdued on the bench and during the first half, which was understandable, I thought. Second half, they did seem more vocal, but they couldn't keep up with the Pomo. The Pomo pulled away. The team, to me, that seems to be really on the rise from where it was at the start of the year, the area is the Pomo. They have some size. Cabrillo had a lot of trouble stopping their between the tackles game with Michael Jordan and Isaac Bosley. And Cabrillo does have some size up front both ways. And when the Pomo went to the spread, a lot of times, and through wide, a lot of times Cabrillo couldn't handle it. So I would, to the Northern League rivals, I would say watch out for the Pomo. I would say they are not as down as they seem at the start of the year.
And we'll find out Friday night. You saw the team that Napomo plays Friday night, AG, so it's going to be Napomo AG Friday night. You saw both those teams, I think, are coming off shutout wins, right? Napomo beating Cabrillo and then AG beating St. Joe. So both those teams got shutout wins on the road Friday night, and then they play each other. Elliott, how do you feel about that matchup, AG versus Napomo?
Well, Tony Dodge has shown a great flexibility in changing the way his offense is structured this year, customizing more to the talents of the players that are on it and not necessarily relying on what has worked in the past. Unfortunately, after they get some momentum with last week's win, they're going to be playing their South County rivals. These kids have played youth football against each other. They've known each other their whole lives. Both teams are going to want to win this. It's like your Rigetti St. Joe or Pioneer Valley Santa Maria. It's one of those rivalry games. But I've seen them both play this year too, and I just think when you got Sawyer May and the rest of those offensive weapons, and Sam Ness back from injury, he looked really good. He flew to the ball. Napomo has relied more on its running game, and they're going to have to get by that tough run defense that Arroyo Grande has. You can pass on Arroyo Grande, but I don't know that Napomo can pass well enough. They may find themselves in the same boat that St. Joseph just was in. And I think that it's just Arroyo Grande and Lompoc are the class of the Central Coast, and Napomo's just not going to be able to get over that hill.
Kenny, you got any thoughts on that matchup? Do you think Napomo, you're talking they're on the rise, do you think they can keep up with AG, or are the Eagles on a different level?
I think Arroyo Grande is still on a slightly higher level. I think Napomo will put up good resistance. Keeping up with Arroyo Grande for the whole game, I just don't see it at this point. I think it will be hard. Arroyo Grande is very, very seasoned. They just know what it takes generally to do what they have to do to win. Sometimes they'll pound it. Against Pioneer Valley, they did not use Gilmet once. They didn't have to. Sawyer May kept hitting his passes, particularly to his old buddy Matt Sill. They've been together for 4 years. Sometimes, as Elliott saw, they will pound Gilmet. So they seem to be able to do it in a variety of ways. Their defense seems like a typical Arroyo Grande defense. They have some good size. As Elliott says, Sam Ness is back. He flew to the ball. I mean, and they even did well without Ness when I saw them against Pioneer Valley. It's a lot for Napomo to handle, I think.
Yeah, and the last matchup we'll touch on briefly is PV. We haven't had a chance to talk about the Panthers a whole lot, but they did score that big win at Santa Maria, 13-10 last week. But talking to Coach John Ruiz after that one, he knows that playing Atascadero is going to be a huge challenge. They do get to play at home, and Atascadero isn't its strongest that it's been over the last couple of years, but it's still a very tough matchup. Anytime you play Atascadero, they're going to have some nice depth, some size, and some talent. They got a great tight end in Elijah Cooks. The quarterback position's kind of rounding into shape. So I think it's going to be a tough challenge for PV. I don't know if they can keep up with the Atascadero. But the Panthers are doing well this year. They're 3-1 and they're coming off a win, so that might be closer than some people would assume. But I still don't think PV can beat Atascadero.
I think it might be the most interesting matchup of the week. Atascadero is good. They're just not great. I keep looking at them and I'm disappointed in their results. I thought they'd be better, because they usually are. But they're still a good football team. And Pioneer Valley can't possibly underestimate them. Of course, the coaches will tell you they never underestimate anybody. It's like a coin flip in my mind. I think Pioneer Valley has shown flashes of being a really good football team. And they could put it to Atascadero in a close, 24-21 type of game, but it could go the other way. This is the toughest one for me to pick this week, because Atascadero has the talent to win this game. So does Pioneer Valley. It's at Pioneer Valley. They get the home field advantage, and they also play on turf, whereas Atascadero is a grass field. So Pioneer Valley's legs are more used to this kind of playing surface. So I guess I'm going to be a homer on this one. I'll pick Pioneer Valley with a slight edge, but I don't know. That Atascadero team is still a pretty good team.
Kenny, do you think the Panthers got a shot against the Greyhounds Friday night?
I do think they have a shot. Think the game has a chance to be competitive, but to be honest, I'm going to go with the Atascadero as far as the pick. I think we have to remember that, yes, the Atascadero is 2-3, but other than winless Madera, their opponents have a combined record of 15-3. I don't know what kind of size the Atascadero has. I'll have to look at the roster. I haven't seen them in person this year, but in the past, Pioneer Valley has always had a size problem against the Atascadero, and I've seen Pioneer Valley only once this year, and they seem to be even a little smaller than usual. They just don't seem to have much size. Against Arroyo Grande is a much bigger team. Pioneer Valley just couldn't get a between the tackles ground game going until it didn't really matter anymore. Michael Bourbon ran pretty well between the tackles late in the game, but by then the outcome had been determined. So in that way it could be hard, but Pioneer Valley does have some good speed. They have some good skill position people. I think that one could be competitive.
Okay. And one more thing about PV, I got to mention Edgar Zacharias, their kicker. I think he's been great this season. His punting game is on point, so I love to make a note of those special team guys who make the plays that you usually don't focus on. But last week against Santa Maria, he hit a 49-yard field goal. That was huge, and he also hit I think a 32-yarder. So Zacharias, a great performance, had a couple punts inside the 20, and I think he hit 4 touchbacks. He was 2 for 5 on field goals, but they just kind of run him out there at any distance and have him kick. So Zacharias might be one of the better young kickers in the area. So he could definitely be a pivotal weapon against Atascadero. And Friday night, be sure to tune in for our webcast game from Houck Stadium. The Braves are hosting the Templeton Eagles. Pregame show at 6:45. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. So it's a lot of fun doing these games. We did the Santa Maria PV game last week, so be sure to tune in for our game from Houck Stadium, and follow us on social media throughout the week, and especially on Friday nights when we'll have a lot of scores and updates from all the games that we're covering live Friday night.
And, the pros, I want to mention this. I've been invited down to the Lakers camp at UCSB, so I'm going to go down there. We'll bring you a report on that. So check our website, and be sure to follow us online and in print at the Santa Maria Times. So that'll do it for this week's edition of 805 Sports Talk. So until next week, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you again.